me, when I look at what's happened in Texas, when I look at that catastrophe that took place in Florida where the Republican candidates kept getting less and less and less and less. And fortunately, Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis ended up winning their election, but it was disgraceful what happened there. So I look at a lot of different places all over the country. I condemn any voter fraud of any kind, whether it's Democrat or Republican. Or when you look at some of the things that happened in California in particular. When you look at what's happened in Texas with all of those votes that they recently found were not exactly properly done, I condemn all of it, and that includes North Carolina, if anything. I guess they're going to be doing a final report, but I'd like to see the final report. But any form of election fraud, I condemn. Trump's reluctance to comment on the North Carolina chicanery until there was a final report to show if anything untoward had happened contrasted with his rush to judgment in cases involving what he perceived as Democratic malfeasance. Trump's reference to Florida was about Brenda Snipes' incompetence in running the 2018 elections, which I consider in Chapter 2. It is enough to say here that Florida law enforcement officials found absolutely no evidence of criminal activity in Broward County's conduct of those elections. The reference to the million fraudulent votes in California appeared to be based on a viral Facebook post falsely claiming that 1.7 million unregistered people had voted in the state. Some people attributed the post to the conservative group Judicial Watch, but the group denied having anything to do with it. "Not ours," a Judicial Watch spokesperson told PolitiFact, "just some random person misinterpreting." The random person was apparently misinterpreting questionable data from a Judicial Watch lawsuit claiming millions of ineligible people were registered on California's voter rolls. The lawsuit aimed to force Los Angeles County and the state to remove up to 1.5 million inactive voters from rolls. The people targeted included those who had died or moved but were not taken off the rolls. Judicial Watch claimed those inactive voters presented a risk of fraud, but it did not show that anyone had voted in the ineligible voters' names. The suit was settled with no admission of wrongdoing and an agreement by election officials to contact those on the inactive list to determine their status. Trump's allusion to what's happened in Texas with all of those votes that they recently found were not exactly properly done appears to refer to a sloppy attempted purge of supposed non-citizens from the Texas voter rolls in 2019. Texas's Attorney General, Ken Paxton, indicted years ago on securities fraud charges but not yet tried, had sent a voter fraud alert in a January 2019 tweet claiming there were 95,000 non-citizens on Texas's voter rolls, including 58,000 who had supposedly voted in Texas elections. Though Paxton's post was retweeted nearly 35,000 times and liked nearly 83,000 times, Texas officials were quick to walk back the figures. A list of supposed non-voters that Texas provided to counties, which administered voter registration lists, contained thousands of errors, including many Texans who were naturalized citizens and eligible to vote. Nearly 1 million Texas residents had become naturalized citizens between 2007 and 2016, and so a list of people who were once non-citizens could not accurately identify current non-citizens. The state offered no evidence to support its wild claim of 58,000 non-citizens voting, much less that there was significant non-citizen voter registration. As the Washington Post's Philip Bump noted, such claims usually fell apart on closer inspection. A similar effort in Florida targeted 180,000 people and ultimately removed 85 from voter rolls. 85 people, not 85,000. The Texas case led to numerous lawsuits arguing that the purge effort was meant to suppress the votes of the state's Latino population and scuttled the legislative confirmation of Texas's interim Secretary of State, David Whitley, who ended up taking a job in the Texas governor's office. Texas abandoned the effort to use the list as the basis for a voter purge and agreed to pay $450,000 in plaintiff's attorney's fees. In granting a preliminary injunction to stop Texas counties from using the faulty lists to purge voters, U.S. District Court Judge Fred Beery wrote, "The evidence has shown in a hearing before this court that there is no widespread voter fraud. The challenge is how to ferret the infinitesimal needles out of the haystack of 15 million Texas voters." The court further finds and concludes the Secretary of State, though perhaps unintentionally, created this mess.